We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we are continuing our in-depth look into the book Egyptian Yoga Volume 1, The Philosophy of Muata, Ashby. We found in the main public access. No copyright infringement was intentional, and we bring it all to all for educational purposes alone. We are at the foreword to this book, to the 10th anniversary edition. Uja, greetings. It gives the author, it's written here, it gives the author much pleasure to present the 10th anniversary edition of this book. When it came out in 1995, it stirred much interest in the ancient Egyptian philosophy and religion, and that it has survived 10 years signifies that it is continually finding new interest. Perhaps more important is that it spawned many other books which were actually started as expansions of most of the chapters of this book. They can be seen in the back section of the book. There are many books on ancient Egyptian religion and philosophy. What makes this one and its children different is, by children it means the following books, expansions, right, on this one book. Different is that it not only seeks to bring forth ancient Egyptian religion and philosophy as an authentic teaching that strongly influenced ancient cultures, but also as a living tradition. A tradition that can be adopted as a spiritual path in life, as a religion, as a system of yoga, or as a philosophical discipline of life on a par with any of the great religions and philosophies of the present or today in these modern times. Many have sought to adopt the Kemetic teaching, ancient Egyptian religion and philosophy, in the last 10 years. Many more have allowed it to influence their current practice of religion and yoga. There can be no better tribute to a culture than to remember its religion and philosophy, and no better way to do that than to practice it and live it day to day. In the past 10 years, the authors have received letters from all over the world, 10 years or more, including India, Japan, Europe and Africa, the Caribbean and South America and Canada. Most people are amazed to discover the teachings presented, and more so perhaps the relationships to other religions, and even the proofs that Neterian, ancient Egyptian religion, was instrumental in the origin and or development of the present day world religions, extending its influence as far as China and Europe and of course sub-Saharan Africa. So that's another reason why we are looking into it, because we had a question. We pondered it over and over again for quite a while, and then, wow, this book seems to have an answer, giving us an answer, right? Which we will touch on later on in this video. So the author here says if they were asked what they'd like to see for the next 10 years, they would say more following and more qualitative following of the teachings. In order to have better experience of the teachings, there needs to be more followers who will accept the path and take it on as their vocation and career. Then it will be possible to expose more people to the teaching and develop better financial resources to produce better venues for the practice of teaching. Then people will discover the true glory of the Neterian teaching and how their power can be discovered today, not as a long past tradition, but as a reality that remains with us, simply dormant, waiting for the true aspirants to accept the challenge of self-improvement that leads to self-knowledge and personal power. And they put here, to all those who have tasted of these waters in the past and all who will taste in the future, the authors greet you in the name of the Netheru, ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. May you walk in peace, may you discover the powers within and the wisdom of the soul. May you glorify the teaching and reap the fruit of enlightenment and immortality. It's coming from the authors, not us. We're just the reader. Relaying it to everybody. Preface. Why yoga? Yoga is, the purpose of this book is to introduce to the reader the idea that what has been referred to as yoga was practiced in ancient Egypt, Kemet, earlier than any other place in human history. Also, the author wishes to convey that the ancient Egyptian yoga is actually a discipline that is part of the overall system of spirituality of ancient Egypt called Shetal Neta, and they did say that it has some correlation. The Egyptian way has some correlation to the Indian way in many ways, right? author further wanted to introduce the idea that Chitta Netta is the basis of Kemetic yoga, and the major world religions also have their basis in Chitta Netta. So this book is a comparative religious and philosophical work that will compare the basic teachings of ancient Egyptian religion and other religions in the hope that the reader may gain a deeper understanding of ancient Egyptian spirituality and the source of their own religions in ancient Africa, and thereby discover the common source of religion and its deeper teachings. The literal meaning of the word yoga is to yoke or to link back, etc., etc. Goes through all that and how you can benefit from it, apparently. Happiness. Correct thinking leads to correct actions. Correct actions lead to happiness. While still alive, that sounds like the Buddhist four pillars, fourfold path. Yeah. And it goes, one truth. From the earliest times it was known in Egypt that there is only one God, the one truth, and this is why a deep study of the many religions, mystery systems and myths around the world reveals similarities in philosophy and symbolism. It is due to the one common source of them all. It is our duty or the author's duty, to inquire deeply into the nature of that truth, since knowing the exact truth is the basis of our well-being. The danger of studying the past lies in the purpose. Are we studying it for personal achievement, that is, to get a degree, to attain stature and respect, for financial gain, for power and control of others, through information, to prove that we are better than someone else, or to understand and assist ourselves and others in the journey of life, the highest goal of service? Surely truth must be our goal, as nothing else can set us free. Okay. The aim of this work is to show and explore a deeper historical background of yoga and to provide a simplified guide for this discipline. The author is hoping that those seekers who are interested in expanding their own consciousness will have further information to draw on to attain a deeper understanding of themselves through a deeper understanding of the mystical discipline called yoga from the Egyptian perspective. The better the understanding of a given thing, the better one is able to apply and use it. It is not the intention of the author to prove that Egyptian philosophy was the basis of the Judeo-Christian religion. This was shown long ago by researchers such as Count Volney, Gerald Massey. Just be careful with that guy, right? Who was said by his peers to be a pseudo-historian, Egyptologist, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, so you need to do research on these people, look in their background, see what they're all about. Albert Churchwood, maybe he's the son of or some brother of the Churchwood we mentioned in the other video, the previously uploaded, about the myth of Mu. Okay. The final answers to questions as to the origin of the mysteries and mystical systems pales in comparison to the more important point, the honest inquiry of every aspirant who is devoted to know the truth for him or herself. The truth can only be known in one's own heart or mind. This truth leads to the highest freedom, salvation from a life of misery and the ends of the cycle of birth and death. Well, that's the promise of the Lord Jesus Christ, isn't it? Okay. This other thing, the end of the cycle of birth and death, or that would be like Hindu, etc., reincarnation, right? Egyptian yoga. Yoga means union. The philosophy of yoga, as espoused by the ancient Egyptians, incorporated no less than 4 words whose exact meaning are equal to the Indian word yoga. So there's some correlation there, which means spiritual union. The 4 hieroglyphic symbols used on the front cover of this book represent the 4 words in Egyptian philosophy, which mean yoga. They are Nefer, Sema, Ankh, and Hetep. A more detailed examination of these symbols may be found in chapter 7, symbols of this book. The name Egyptian yoga comes from the ancient Egyptian terms Chitta Netta, meaning the way of the hidden supreme being, and Samai Ta'i, meaning the union of the 2 lands. Samai means union, and the following determinative terms give it a spiritual significance, at once equating it with the term yoga as it is used in India. The two lands refer to the upper and lower Egypt, as well as Horus and Set, who represent the higher self and the lower self of every human being respectively. Thus they also have the ancient Egyptian term, Smai Heru Set. The Egyptian language and symbols provide the first historical record of yoga philosophy and religious literature. The Indian culture of the Indus Valley Dravidians and Harappans appear to have carried it on and expanded much of the intellectual expositions in the form of the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas and Tantras, the ancient spiritual texts of India. Ancient Egyptian scriptures show that the Egyptians understood the singularity of that which is called God, and further understood the timeless, formless, spaceless, sexless nature of God, from which time, form, space and sex or duality come. Thus a nameless supreme being, Neteru, God of gods, was referred to as the Hidden One, until later times when myths were constructed for the understanding of the common people and immature souls, humans with less than number of incarnations. In other words, being reincarnated again and again. Didn't have very much. They weren't reincarnated as much as other people. Panera, or the god, was thought of as a father, mother god, created god, and must not be confused with the Netas or gods, which represented the cosmic forces of the universe. The creator is viewed as both male and female until creation is created. So is that saying they're like hermaphrodite? Because there was apparently some pharaoh or king that believed this, so he married his half sister, apparently, cloning the gods, duplicating what the gods supposedly did, and they had children with club feet. Found by Zawi Hawass in the Valley of the Kings, we believe, and he showed it in a shoebox or a box. He said, well, this is basically these two that were in union's children. They must have died young and they had what looked like club feet due to being too closely related, probably. Okay, so it goes on about mythology, philosophy, the veil of ignorance. As stated in the ancient Egyptian text, the Book of Coming Forth by Day, the eternal soul comes to earth to learn certain lessons and to become purified. In the process of evolution, virtues as well as vices are experienced by us based on our own mental disposition. Our purity of heart determines the situations and outcomes of those situations. Through repeated embodiments, reincarnation, we are led by our own soul to experience the act of living, attempting all the time to find that ultimate absolute bliss which will eliminate all pain. And it goes on about God, Horus, has an Egyptian proverb down the bottom here. That which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality is beyond to naming, but the wise men call it the Or, Egyptian proverb. Okay, it goes on about Horus, and ancient Egypt. The oral history suggests that the pyramids may date from the time of the Sphinx, 10,000 to 5,500 BCE, and that they were used for initiation rites into the higher mysteries of yoga and as repositories of ancient knowledge to promote the spiritual evolution of humans who would assist in the development of humanity and so forth. Okay, we're just taking bits and pieces because we're trying to get ahead here to a certain subject that answered our question, or answered our question that we had for a while. The Greek Solon visited Egypt around the year 590 BCE and was instructed about the existence of a land called Atlantis, where a high civilization once existed, but which was destroyed due to the inability of its inhabitants to control the powerful forces of nature which they had been able to release. There existed an imbalance between their spiritual maturity and their technological mental advancement. In the year 395 BCE, the Egyptian priest under whom Plato had studied told him that there had been many floods which had devastated the earth and changed its appearance, and that the greatest one had totally devastated Atlantis. Atlanteans were said to be capable of levitating large stones weighing many tons with the use of their mental powers, the same kind of power necessary to create the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx of Egypt, and the city of Machu Picchu in Peru. Therefore, many ages have seen various high cultures. It is interesting to note that the decline of all the intellectually advanced civilizations has been related to the loss of balance between intellectual mental advancement and that of the spiritual moral nature. It is evident from the writings of the Egyptian high priest Manetho, 280 BCE, the Egyptian calendar, and the dating of the Sphinx at Giza, that KMT, or Egypt, that would be Kemet, like some older progenitors or proponents of the Kemet belief, ancient history, etc., say, well, you should say Kemet, it's KMT. Yeah, that's what we came across long ago in our research. Okay, and it had its origins prior to 20,000 BCE. This date is supported by Herodotus, a famous ancient Greek historian, supposedly the father of all history, who was known and said by many experts to be an exaggerator. Look at the movie 300. That guy's basically blinded to one eye and all that sort of stuff. What did he say? Something like the brave 300 and all this sort of stuff. When there's actually 900 people there. They're taking it from Herodotus' accounts, apparently. That's what we believe. Yeah, because the Athenians did leave, but they had these others that were with them. And in total, there were all 900 of them in this pass that went to their death, right? Okay, so Herodotus, a famous ancient Greek historian, and other Greek and Roman writers of the time. Kemetan tombs and ancient Greek tombs, and so forth. Okay, here's the Kemetan names of the main gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt and the Greek translation in common use. So you've got the Egyptian here, then you've got the Greek equivalent. Okay, there's a whole lot of sayings here about the ancient Ethiopians, Egyptians, and Indians, or Hindus. When therefore thou hearest the myths of the Egyptians concerning the gods, wanderings and dismemberings and many such passions, think none of these things spoken as they really are in state and action. For they do not call Hermes dog as a proper name, but they associate the watching and waking from sleep of the animal who, by knowing and not knowing, determines friend from foe with the most logos-like of the gods. Plutarch. The Egyptians and Nubians have thick lips, broad noses, woolly hair, and burnt skin. And the Indian tribes I have mentioned, their skins are all of the same colour, much like the Ethiopians. Their country is a long way from Persia towards the south. Herodotus. The riches of Egypt are for the foreigners therein. Anonymous Arabic proverb. Truly at weaving whilst the Egyptians are clever. Anonymous, the Ethiopians and Egyptians are very black or dark. Aristotle, compared with the Egyptians, then the Greeks are childish mathematicians. Okay, and Plato. These philosophers. Okay, and upon his return to Greece, they gathered around and asked, tell us about this great land of the blacks called Ethiopia. And Herodotus said, there are two great Ethiopian nations, one in Sind, India, and the other in Egypt, recorded by Diodorus, Greek historian, 100 BC. And there's looks like a wall relief here. From the tomb of Ramses III, the four branches of mankind according to the Egyptians. A. Egyptian, as seen by himself. B. Indo-European, or the Hindus, probably. Asiatics, maybe. C. Other Africans. Pretty similar there, right? D. Semites, Middle Easterners, it'll be the Assyrians, etc. Middle Easterners. Photo from Chiek Antioch Civilization on Barbary, courtesy of Présence Africaine. Introduction to Sematawi and Shitalt Netta, the fundamental principles of ancient Egyptian religion. The term Nettarianism is derived from the name Shitalt Netta. Shitalt Netta means a hidden divinity. It is the ancient philosophy and mythic spiritual culture that gave rise to the ancient Egyptian civilization. Those who follow the spiritual path of Shitalt Netta are therefore referred to as Nettarians, perhaps. The fundamental principles common to all denominations of ancient Egyptian religion may be summed up in four great truths that are common to all the traditions of ancient Egyptian religion. Summary of ancient Egyptian religion. Ma'ur in Shitalt Netta, great truths of the Shitalt Netta religion. Nita, the Supreme Being, is one and alone, and as Nebuchadnezzar, manifesting everywhere and in all things in the forms of gods and goddesses. These are the hieroglyphics, etc. And Ma'at Sui Sawi Set is him, or him, because the K is silent, right? So it'll be him, maybe. Lack of righteousness brings fetters to the personality, and these fetters cause ignorance of the divine. More hieroglyphs. Devotion to the divine leads to freedom and from the fetters of Set. The practice of the Shiri discipline leads to knowing oneself in a true divine. This is called true, being true of speech. Nectarian great truths. And more Egyptian philosophy, put it that way. Spiritual culture and the purpose of life, Shetal Neta. Men and women are to become God-like through a life of virtue and the cultivation of the spirit through scientific knowledge, practice and bodily discipline. Ancient Egyptian proverb. Okay, and there's more on that in the Shetal Neta. The authors have established that the ancient Egyptians were African peoples who lived in the northeast quadrant of the continent of Africa. They were descendants of the Nubians, who had themselves originated from farther south into the heart of Africa at the Great Lakes region, the sources of the Nile River. They created a vast civilization and culture earlier than any other society in known history, and organized a nation that was based on the concepts of balance and order as well as spiritual enlightenment. Okay, this is what these people are saying, but what about the people that came before them? These people, according to these scriptures, were descendants of Noah's sons, Ham, who became, or who were known as the Mizraim, the Egyptians. So originally the first descendants were Semites. Okay, have a look at the descendant list in the book of Genesis, and you'll see that these latter peoples, these Egyptians were supposedly prior, were descendants of one of Noah's sons, Ham. These ancient African people eventually called their land Kemet, and soon after developing a well-ordered society, they began to realize that the world is full of wonders, but also that life is fleeting and that there must be something more to human existence. They developed spiritual systems that were designed to allow human beings to understand the nature of the secret being, who is this essence of all creation. Who is the essence of all creation? They call this spiritual system Shitau. So it might be, because there's no E there, but you probably like Shitau Neta. Okay, or Shitau Neta. Depends on how you read this. Okay, there's better people out there that can read it than us. We're just guessing at it for this video, right? So, forgive us for getting it wrong. Okay, and this means secret. Neta means divinity. Who is Neta in Kemetan religion? NTR, the symbol of Neta was described by an ancient Kemetan priest as that which is placed in the coffin. So it's some sort of shepherd's crook or something like that. Okay, looks like it. The term Neta or Nucha here comes from the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic language, which did not record its vowels. However, the term survives in the Coptic language as Nutar. The same Coptic meaning, divine force or sustaining power, applies in the present as it did in the ancient times. It's a symbol composed of a wooden staff. That's what that is. That was wrapped with strips of fabric like a mummy. The strips alternate in colour with yellow, green and blue. The mummy in Kemetan spirituality is understood to be the dead but resurrected divinity. So the Neta is actually every human being who does not really die but goes to live on in a different form. Further, the resurrected spirit of every human being is that same divinity. Phonetically, the term Neta is related to other terms having the same meaning, such as the Latin natura, the Spanish naturaleza, the English nature and nutriment, etc., in a real sense as We'll see. Nature means power manifesting as netaru, and the netaru are the objects of creation, i.e. nature, neta and netaru. Okay, here's the netaru, gods and goddesses, who proceed from the neta, supreme being. Okay. And there's more information there. The term netaru means god and goddesses. This means that from the ultimate and transcendental supreme being, the highest in this hierarchy or pyramid, to use it in that pun, that is a pun, right? Yeah, like how you have those pyramid schemes, right? Yeah, there's the top, and there's the others that branch off from it. And there's more information there. Sacred scriptures of Shitat Neta, mythic scriptures, coffin texts, papyrus texts, Ma'at declarations, like the 42 laws of Ma'at, wisdom text, Ptolemaic period, precepts of Tahotep, instructions of Amenhotep, etc. The Netaru and their temples, diagram 1, the ancient Egyptian temple network. The sages of Kemet instituted a system by which the teachings of spirituality were espoused through a temple organization. Okay, so you have Neta, you have Heru, Nun, etc., Ra, Nat, Ta, Aset, Asa, Aton, and so forth. Sima Tawi means Egyptian yoga. They go into that. Most students of yoga are familiar with the yogic traditions of India. Consider that the Indian texts such as the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, etc. are the primary and original source of yogic philosophy and teaching. However, upon examination, the teachings currently espoused in all of the major forms of Indian yoga can be found in ancient Egyptian scriptures, inscribed in papyrus and on temple walls, as well as steles, statues, obelisks, and others. So, are they saying, he's also saying what originated there in Egypt, or the Indians, the Hindus were there, they ruled, and then these Nubians took over, whatever. Possibly not hinting at that, but there's always that possibility, right? That's what we're looking at. So, according to this, the Indian texts within these holy books of these Hindus, okay, revealed that the major forms of Indian yoga can be found in ancient Egyptian scriptures inscribed in papyrus and on temple walls within Egypt, right? So they had, like the author said earlier, there was a correlation between the Egyptians and the Indians. It goes on about what is yoga and the disciplines of yoga, and here's all the details here. It's got yoga of wisdom, yoga of devotional love, meditation, physical postures of yoga, yoga of self-reflection, tantric yoga, serpent power yoga, all this sort of thing. What is Egyptian yoga? The term Egyptian yoga and the philosophy behind it. Deep explanation of all of that. The Egyptian hieroglyphs. The ancient Egyptians called the disciplines of yoga in ancient Egypt by the term Smai Tawi. So what does Smai Tawi mean? It gives you an explanation. Any more information on it? What the Smai Heru set, etc. is. And then some quotes from the Egyptians, or their sayings, whatever. Okay, it goes on about Egyptian yoga again, and it being a yoke or a link back. Study of yoga. And what yoga is all about. The goal of yoga is to promote integration of the mind, body, spirit complex in order to produce optimal health of the human being. This is accomplished through mental and physical exercises which promote the free flow of spiritual energy by reducing mental complexes caused by ignorance. There are two roads which human beings can follow, one of wisdom and the other of ignorance. The path of the masses is generally the path of ignorance, which leads them into negative situations, thoughts and deeds. These in turn lead to ill health and sorrow in life. The other road is based on wisdom, and it leads to health, true happiness and enlightenment. Egyptian philosophy may be summed up in the following proverbs.